Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, May 20th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It has happened again. Another deadly smuggling operation off a local beach. Lifeguards acting fast to save a large number of people dumped into the water, left on their own to go ashore. KPBS reporter Melissa May with how this latest ordeal played out.
A Border Patrol agent first spotted the boat off Point Loma just after 5 this morning. A short time later, lifeguards were called to a site in La Jolla.
This morning at around approximately 5:30, lifeguards were notified of a vessel inside the surf with people in the water needing assistance in La Jolla off Marine Street.
Lifeguards rescued 10 people from the water there. 8 were taken to 4 local hospitals.
We were later notified that there was the vessel had washed up at Wipeout Beach near the children's pool, about a mile north of the original rescue location. There was only one person near the vessel.
That person was pronounced dead at the scene. A total of 15 people were taken into custody. Earlier this week, authorities detained 23 people on another suspected smuggling boat. And earlier this month, 3 people died when another boat capsized off Point Loma. University of San Diego professor Ev Mead explains why migrants are getting desperate.
A regional refugee crisis in Central America, an economic crisis caused by the pandemic, and then a crisis in our immigration system where we have way more demand than we have ability to adjudicate cases. If you put all that together, you've got some really desperate people who don't feel like they can wait, and very, very little opportunity for them to come in a safer way.
Mead says migrants are targeted by smugglers and unaware of the dangers.
You don't actually have the tools to make a rational risk assessment. What you have is a low-level representative of organized crime coming to you and offering you a service.
Passengers on previous boats were identified as Mexican and Guatemalan nationals. There's no word on where this latest group came from. Melissa May, KPBS News.
The UN Refugee Agency is asking the Biden administration to lift pandemic-related restrictions on people seeking asylum in the U.S. The Title 42 authority was first implemented by President Trump last year to effectively end asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border. President Biden has kept the policy in place, though children traveling alone have been exempted. The UN High Commissioner says protecting public health and the right to seek asylum are, quote, fully compatible. And we have some breaking news for you. A ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has started, ending 11 days of violence and destruction in the Gaza Strip. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office announced his security cabinet approved the proposal mediated by Egypt. Hamas quickly said it would honor the deal. It came after heavy pressure from the U.S. to stop the military offensive. At least 230 Palestinians were killed in the fighting, along with 12 people in Israel. San Diego County is working to give everyone their shot at a coronavirus vaccine by bringing it straight to them. And local leaders are trying to clear up any remaining mask confusion. Here's KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel.
It's just for a few more weeks.
The county estimates that everyone who wants a vaccine would have gotten it by June 15, which is why Supervisor Fletcher said that date was selected to end masking requirements. At a press conference Thursday, he said he talked with business owners who were in favor of the mandate.
I heard from a lot of businesses who said their workers were not comfortable at this point moving so rapidly when so many people had still not been able to get the vaccine.
This comes as California regulators debate on when to ease masking requirements, possibly proposing to require fully vaccinated workers to wear masks until July 31st, age 8 business groups aren't in favor of. The latest vaccine numbers show that out of those eligible to get the vaccine, 66% have received their first dose and more than 50% are fully vaccinated. Fletcher says there's been a drop in people lining up for the vaccine, but a recent push to take the vaccine to people with the county's mobile site has been effective.
We've already completed 15 mobile vaccine events that got shots in the arm of more than 2,500 individuals.
The county is also making efforts to motivate young people to get vaccinated as they've seen an increase of infection in the age group.
According to our county health officer, young people 18 and under are having an increase in the percentage of the cases. The rate has gone on from 3% to 22%.
The county says the increase can be attributed to students returning to school. Although there are still COVID outbreaks occurring in the county's health officer said outbreaks were declining due to vaccination efforts. 28 outbreaks have been registered so far for the month of May. Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
A reminder, if you want to set up a vaccination appointment for yourself or for an eligible family member, you can find a location close to you at kpbs.org. Just click on the vaccines link on our homepage. A Mount Helix neighborhood will not be the next home for two men deemed to be sexually violent predators. Today, a San Diego Superior Court judge ruled that 78-year-old Douglas Badger will not be placed at a supervised home on Horizon Hills Drive. And earlier this month, a proposal to place another sex offender, Merle Wakefield, into the same home was also rejected. The judge says the location is too densely populated and close to children. The San Diego District Attorney is hoping to keep young people out of the criminal justice system. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong says a new program announced today is meant to address the root of juvenile crime.
San Diego District Attorney Summer Stephan presented her office's new Juvenile Diversion initiative. It will divert young people away from criminal prosecution and into therapy and mentoring services. Youth will have an opportunity to participate in the program before they're charged with the crime.
It's an early intervention program that prioritizes diversion options for youth instead of filing criminal charges. The program keeps them out of the courthouse that is here behind us and out of the juvenile justice system completely.
Anyone between the ages of 12 and 18 arrested for any misdemeanor or nonviolent felonies will be eligible for the program. Instead of being prosecuted, juveniles can participate in community service and restorative practices, such as meeting with victims and counseling sessions. The National Conflict Resolution Center will run those sessions, says President Stephen Dinkin.
We're going to use restorative principles in this process, and that means putting the youth at the center. They're not going to be passive. We're going to ask them to participate, to take ownership of the crime that they have committed.
Youth would spend on average 6 months in the program. Stephan says her office will ensure that Black, Latinx, and Indigenous youth will get the services they need from professionals who understand their backgrounds.
This is why it is community-based, because then the community can come up with the solutions and with the services that are culturally competent for that particular youth's needs.
The District Attorney's Office files about 1,900 criminal cases against youth each year. The new initiative is expected to divert about a quarter of those cases. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
Cathedral Catholic High School has been placed on a 2-year probation after members of its football team circulated racist photos directed at Lincoln High School. Lincoln High's principal announced the results of an investigation by the San Diego City Conference on Facebook. The probation means that if another racist incident occurs in that time, Cathedral Catholic's membership in the conference could be revoked. The head coach of the varsity football team was also suspended for the first 2 games of the next season. Cathedral Catholic apologized after the photos and suspended the students who were involved. Today, President Joe Biden signed the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act into law. It's intended to counter a rise in anti-Asian hate crimes amid the pandemic. And as Camila Bernal explains, this could expedite the review of potential COVID-related hate crimes. A warning, some of this video is tough to watch.
This attack caught on camera.
I was just trying to shield my head and trying to prevent any worse injuries.
And the bruises here, evidence in a different case.
Somebody just pushed me and hit me. and I lose consciousness, and when I wake up, I'm all bloodied up.
It's the increase in incidents like these involving Asian Americans that led to this. The bill, signed into law Thursday, creates a new position at the Justice Department to expedite review of potential COVID-19 related hate crimes.
We see you, and the Congress has said, we see you, and we are committed to stop the hatred and the bias.
The COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act also directs government agencies to work with community-based organizations to raise awareness of hate crimes. And it requires the U.S. Attorney General to issue guidance to work with state and local law enforcement agencies to establish online reporting.
This bill brings us one step closer to stopping hate, not only for Asian Americans, but for all Americans.
The incidents investigated don't always end up being categorized as hate crimes, but for some victims, it's clear.
I didn't lose anything. All my belongings is with me. They didn't rob me, so I think it's a hate crime.
Camila Bernal, KPBS News.
That he would be wanting to talk to me. It was very strange.
That's Miguel Rodriguez, a Santee father who was detained by San Diego Sheriff's deputies last month in the parking lot of the Vons in Santee. Someone called the Sheriff's Department after they saw Rodriguez changing his 2-year-old's diaper on a sidewalk there. KPBS reporter John Carroll talked to Sheriff Gore and other local leaders about the incident.
My problem is that they were called at all for a nothing.
Miguel Rodriguez talking about what happened to him and his 2-year-old daughter Scarlett on the evening of April 27th. He'd walked the 2 miles from his home to the Santee Vons with Scarlett in her stroller, but as they were leaving, he discovered that Scarlett had somehow punctured her diaper. She needed to be changed immediately.
I just came over here to where I think there would be less people.
But one person saw Rodriguez changing Scarlett and decided it was worth a call to 911. We requested audio of that 911 call as well as the body camera footage from one of the deputies who showed up. Those requests were denied, but the department did supply a partially redacted transcript of the call. It reveals the caller's concerns. Male was changing juveniles' diapers on sidewalk. RP, reporting party, was concerned for their welfare, and this, Rodriguez looked transient.
This is a really good example of why every call doesn't need a law enforcement officer as a first responder or a responder at all.
Genevieve Jones-Wright is the executive director of Community Advocates for Just and Moral Governance. She says we as a society need to reimagine the role of law enforcement. But when it comes to this particular incident, she says there are problems, apart from the fact law enforcement was called at all. After Scarlett's accident, Rodriguez called his wife to come pick them up. He was just finishing securing Scarlett in her car seat when the first of 2 deputies arrived. That deputy questioned Rodriguez about whether he'd ever been arrested and whether he had a record, and Rodriguez says those questions were asked more than once.
You had inquired whether he was changing a baby. He said yes. The fact that they continued to question this father is completely inappropriate.
Jones-Wright says the deputy's actions come close to violating the Fourth Amendment, which protects people against unreasonable searches. But San Diego Sheriff Bill Gore says we should all try to put ourselves in the position of the person who called 911.
They saw something that looked suspicious.
Gore says calls like this place law enforcement in a difficult position, but he says not responding to the call was not an option.
What if the child had not been okay? What if the child had been abducted by somebody and it wasn't their kid? Then what would the second guessing been there?
Putting aside the appropriateness of repeatedly questioning Rodriguez whether he'd ever been arrested or had a record, Gore says the deputy was polite throughout the course of the encounter.
I think Mr. Rodriguez was treated like hopefully any member of the community, whatever part of this county it was in, would be treated.
But Rodriguez says he's all but certain law enforcement would not have been called if he didn't have brown skin.
I've changed countless diapers on children in public settings, because the parent, you got to do what you got to do to take care of your kid wherever you are.
From his position as chair of the County Board of Supervisors, Nathan Fletcher has worked toward what he sees as making society more equitable, and that includes policing. He says what happened to Miguel Rodriguez would never have happened to someone who looks like him, but if it did,
I don't know that I'd be in a similar situation where my record would be run and I'd be asked multiple times if I have a criminal record. And I think that is at the heart of what we're trying to transform and change when we talk about being a better society and a more colorblind society.
Sheriff Gore says the bottom line for him is that the deputy handled the situation appropriately. He says the controversy surrounding this whole incident amounts to making a mountain out of a molehill. But it seems clear that for people of color, what are mountains and what are molehills is a matter of perspective and life experience. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Governor Gov Newsom signed legislation today to speed up construction of affordable housing in California. Newsom signed the bill in San Jose, one of the most expensive real estate markets in the nation. That's where an affordable housing and commercial project is planned for construction near the city's train station.
We need to do more and do better to curry these kinds of investments. 25,000 plus permanent jobs just on this site, 5,700 jobs, as the senator said correctly, just in the construction of this site. 7.3 million square feet of commercial space, 500,000 of retail space.
San Jose's mayor says the project will add 4,000 high-density homes with 25% rent restricted. We're getting a look at the pandemic's impact on the restaurant industry. The California Restaurant Association says nearly a third of the state's restaurants have closed their doors for good since the shutdown. 2/3 of workers, as many as 1 million, at least temporarily lost their jobs. Restaurant employment is still down 1/4 from before the pandemic. Industry leaders say they fear a lack of labor may force more businesses to close, though they expect an eventual rebound. Many important events of our lives, like weddings and quinceañeras, were put on hold during the pandemic, and it hit the event industry hard. KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel talks with some Chula Vista merchants who are eager to get back to work.
But now it's time to raise a toast and mark those calendars as the event industry here in Chula Vista prepares for a new season of bookings.
Along 3rd Avenue in downtown Chula Vista sits a row of restaurants, businesses, and breweries. It's also a go-to spot for people looking to plan a wedding or celebration. These businesses are picking up following a brutal year of pandemic restrictions. From party photographers,
there was no business for us,
to party bus rental companies.
Because we work mainly with restaurants, weddings, quinceañeras, birthdays, and churches are closed, restaurants are closed.
Dress shops, tuxedo shops, DJs, catering companies, an entire industry completely shut down.
It was so sad, and I was so scared of losing my business. And this is a family business where my kids help me.
Vicky Hernandez is the owner of Illusion Hall. She says the party venue she's been running for a decade was on the verge of bankruptcy.
Some people don't know, but I had to take the decision to work as a waiter. I never believed that I can do that, but I was trying to find a job.
She also took out a $60,000 loan for her business.
And when the loans start coming up, I qualify for a loan, and that helped me. That was like my key to continue in this business.
After a year of canceled events, Hernandez is scheduled to host a string of parties starting this summer.
Get ready, Mom, because now I am very, very busy because I had almost 50 events waiting.
She marked the turnaround with an open house on Sunday, giving clients a feel of what their dream day can look like. Angelo Rocha has a tuxedo shop across the street from Illusion Hall. He says the reopening of the party halls is a good sign, as he knows people will be looking for formal wear.
It's low, but every day it's more people coming up, more people coming up.
The majority of Rocha's income comes from quinceañeras, a celebration of a girl's 15th birthday. He says 90% of his clients are Latino.
Quinceañeras is something special for the Hispanic people. It's very important to have that kind of party. that kind of event in the family.
Rocha says it's loyal customers that are keeping him afloat. Out of 50 events he had scheduled last year, he says only one asked for their money back, and the remainder 49 have rescheduled for this year.
Most of my customers are, how do you say, old customers. Old customers. I have a customer from 20 years. 20 years. They come in back, they do some quinceañera. Later on, they come in for the wedding. Later on, they come in for another event.
Other store owners aren't as fortunate. Mario Urista, the owner of Mario's Boutique, says he has an entire different demographic of clientele he hasn't been able to reach. About 30 to 40% of my customers come from Tijuana to look for dresses here. It's a lot of people. Urista says he's had several customers looking for prom dresses. It's an added bonus he wasn't expecting to see this year with the uncertainty of high school proms. As the event industry begins to salvage what's left of this year, Hernandez is just grateful to have made it through.
I'm happy that I didn't stop. I'm happy that I didn't go to bankruptcy, but it's going to take us maybe a year and a half or 2 years to go back to that area where we was before pandemic.
Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
Support is gaining to build a pedestrian and bike bridge at the San Diego River Crossing and Mission Trails Regional Park. That is the location where 21-year-old Max Lanai slipped and drowned last January. City leaders are joining Max's family in wanting to make the bridge a reality so that a tragedy there never happens again. Fundraising efforts have been underway to help pay for the bridge. Hurricane season could start early for the 7th year in a row. That is the latest climate prediction from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association. Scientists expect another above normal Atlantic storm season. Forecasters say it won't rival the historic hurricanes from last year, but could be 60% above what is average.
We are keeping things cool with clouds hanging around, and that's all part of this upper low pressure system that actually could bring some showers to the mountains, a little blustery too in certain spots. It's why we have wind advisories in place for some locations. Yeah, we're talking some blustery times out there, so keep in mind that's ongoing. Some places picking up 30 to maybe as much as 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts there through the mountains. So tonight, clouds will be on the increase, lows falling to the lower 60s. And then we keep that breezy pattern into tomorrow with this upper level low. You can kind of make out with the wind direction here, still kind of spinning overhead. So we will have still some of those clouds towards some of the mountains, creating some of those showers. Tonight, a few clouds out there, 61 for the low in San Diego. We're looking at Mount Laguna coming in at 40 degrees, Oceanside in the mid-50s. Not everyone will have clouds all the time. It's not a true marine layer either, although there could be waves of clouds coming in off of the ocean, so we will have a little bit of marine impact, to say the least. And then tomorrow, we're back into the upper 60s for highs, which means cooler than average for San Diego. Escondido coming in at 67, and Borrego Springs topping out in the upper 70s. Again, noting a cooler day. Futurecast does show that once we get in through Friday afternoon, maybe a few more breaks of sunshine, but clouds come back, and Friday evening we could have a couple showers for some of the mountain locations. And we get into the Saturday morning looking pretty quiet there with still quite a few clouds hanging around. For the coast, we'll be holding on to the 60s. For Friday, Saturday, making it close to 70 degrees by the time we head into Sunday. Meanwhile, inland locations, it's a struggle too. We're only in the upper 60s for Saturday. By Sunday, hopefully climbing into the mid-70s. We'll be back to the lower 80s for Monday and Tuesday. Mountain locations, we're talking mid-40s for your Friday and Saturday. A cool feel there. And the deserts also struggling to make it into the 80s. We should be, though, back into the 90s by Monday and Tuesday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
Audio. And And here's another look at today's top stories. There has been another accident involving a suspected smuggling boat off the San Diego coast, this time in La Jolla. San Diego lifeguards say one person died and 10 others were rescued from rough water conditions. 8 people were taken to local hospitals. In all, 15 were taken into custody. This is the second such incident this week. And the latest coronavirus vaccine numbers from San Diego County show that 66% of those eligible have received their first dose and more than half are fully vaccinated. County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says there's been a drop in people lining up for their shots, but a recent push to switch to mobile clinics has been effective. 9 puppies rescued by the San Diego Humane Society are ready to find their forever homes. The Rhodesian Ridgeback Hound mix puppies are now 8 weeks old. Oh, so cute. Back in March, humane officers found their mother had given birth under a van during rainy weather. The 5 females went up for adoption just today. The 4 males will be available for adoption on Saturday. So you can visit sdhumane.org/adopt to apply to take one of these babies home. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Hope you have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.